The silver-haired man's deep, commanding voice echoed across the sleek, glass-walled showroom, cutting through the hum of conversation like a sharp blade. "Are you seriously telling me I don't belong here?" Even at 66 and decades past his prime, his towering figure exuded confidence and quiet power. He was wearing a tailored suit, his presence sharp and refined. Still, the young saleswoman sneered, arms crossed. "I'm sorry, but we have policies to prevent loitering," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. She tapped a manicured finger on her desk, her words slow as if she thought he wouldn't understand. "We can't have people just wandering in here. These cars are for serious buyers." The man, William Big Will Johnson, a former NBA champion whose jersey hung in the rafters of one of basketball's most storied arenas, couldn't believe his ears. He hadn't flaunted his celebrity status in years, but this moment tested his restraint. His son, Tyler, had often warned him about situations like this, but even Tyler, sharp as a whip and fiercely protective, couldn't have predicted what would unfold. "You haven't asked me a single question about what I'm looking for," William said calmly, though his voice carried a slight tremble of disbelief. "Instead, you assumed I don't belong. Is that how you treat all your customers?" The saleswoman, Chelsea, scoffed. "I've seen this before. Someone like you." She paused for emphasis, eyes flicking up and down his polished but understated outfit, "isn't in the market for a car like this. Let's not waste each other's time." Before William could respond, a voice rang out from behind him. "And what exactly do you mean by someone like him?" Everyone turned to see a sharp-dressed man walking in, his tailored navy suit and leather briefcase radiating authority. Tyler Johnson was not just any lawyer. He was the newly appointed EEOC attorney with a reputation for winning battles against workplace discrimination. The air seemed to crackle with tension as he approached. "I'd love to hear your explanation," Tyler continued, his tone calm but icy, his sharp eyes locked on Chelsea. "Because this is not the first time you've been accused of treating someone differently because of how they look." Chelsea froze, her smirk vanishing. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Tyler placed a hand on his father's shoulder, his expression unreadable. "You didn't recognize him, did you?" Tyler asked, tilting his head. "You're staring at William Johnson, Hall of Famer, philanthropist, and doge. Let me guess you thought he couldn't afford anything here?" Chelsea's face turned beet red, but Tyler wasn't done. "Interesting. This is the same nonsense you pulled when you were a bank supervisor. Gaslighting, dismissive behavior, and an awful lot of mistakes that always seemed to target people of color." The room was dead silent as customers and other employees looked on. "Now," Tyler said, his voice sharper than before, "we're going to have a little chat about accountability. To understand the depth of this confrontation, you'd need to go back 10 years. Chelsea had only sometimes been a sales rep at the Mercedes dealership. Back then, she was a bank supervisor, overseeing loans and accounts. Her sharp tongue and sly manipulations earned her both a reputation and complaints, though nothing seemed to stick. One of those complaints came from Tyler Johnson himself, who, during his early career, had walked into the same bank with a business proposal. Chelsea had treated him with thinly veiled contempt. She nitpicked his paperwork, accused him of forging signatures, which were legally notarized, and suggested he might be better off building credit in smaller ways. That experience lit a fire in Tyler that propelled his career in employment law, focusing on cases of racial bias and workplace inequality. And now, by pure chance or divine alignment, their paths crossed again, only this time, Chelsea had no idea who she was dealing with. I think this is a misunderstanding," Chelsea stammered, visibly rattling under Tyler's glare. "No misunderstanding here," Tyler shot back, his voice calm but relentless. "You assume my father couldn't afford to be here, just like you assumed I wasn't qualified for a loan years ago. See, I remember you well. Your tactics? Gaslighting, dismissing valid concerns, acting like rules exist just to trip people up." William, who had been silent, finally spoke. "I came in here to buy a car for my grandson, his first car, but instead of showing me respect, you've made it clear you don't think I belong." He turned to the dealership manager who had nervously approached the scene. "Is this the standard of service you promote?" The manager, a wiry man in his 50s named Greg, looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. "Of course not, Mr. Johnson. Chelsea, step aside. Let me personally assist you. But Tyler wasn't letting it slide. Mr. Gregg, let's talk about accountability. I happen to be representing multiple cases involving discrimination at car dealerships across the state. And now, my father just became another example. Gregg stammered. We value diversity here. This is a misunderstanding. It's not a misunderstanding, Tyler interrupted. It's a pattern, and I have the receipts to prove it. He opened his briefcase, pulling out documents. You see, since taking on my role at the EEOC, I've received several complaints about this dealership, but I had no idea my family would become part of the story. Chelsea's hands clenched into fists, her confidence crumbling. I was just doing my job, she muttered. I didn't mean you didn't mean to get caught, Tyler finished. And this isn't just about you. This is about every employee here who thinks they can treat customers differently based on how they look. Within minutes, the situation escalated. Tyler had already started recording the interaction and informed Gregg of his intent to file a formal complaint against the dealership. Gregg tried to salvage the moment. Mr. Johnson, please let us make this right. You'll have a car, any car, on the house. William raised an eyebrow. You think money fixes this? It's not about the carrots, about respect. This isn't the first time my son and I have faced this, and it won't be the last. Tyler, meanwhile, had already begun drafting an official report. I don't want freebies, he said. I want systemic change. That starts with Chelsea being held accountable and your dealership addressing its internal biases. The crowd of customers murmured, many nodding in agreement. One older man in the corner said, They did the same thing to me last month. Said I couldn't test drive until they ran my credit. Gregg's face turned pale. Well, investigate immediately. No, Tyler replied. I'll investigate. And when I'm done, you'll wish you'd handled this differently. The fallout was swift. Within days, news of the incident hit local media. Tyler, known for his legal prowess and fiery public speaking, held a press conference outlining his findings. He revealed that the dealership had a long history of discriminatory practices, with multiple employees, including Chelsea, at the center of previous complaints. Chelsea was fired, though not before she tried to blame the dealership's culture for her behavior. I was just following what everyone else did, she claimed in a desperate interview, but Tyler wasn't buying it. You weren't following a culture, you were leading it. The dealership was slapped with a hefty fine and mandated to undergo anti-bias training overseen by Tyler himself. As for William, he found a different dealership to buy his grandson's Corone that treated him like the legend he was. When asked by a reporter what he thought of the ordeal, he simply said, Respect isn't bought, it's earned. They didn't earn mine. Months later, the dealership struggled to recover its reputation. Tyler, meanwhile, continued his crusade against workplace discrimination, bolstered by the viral story of his father's mistreatment. William, ever the gentle giant, turned the incident into a teachable moment for his grandson, reminding him to always stand up for what's right. And Chelsea? She tried to start over, in a different field, but her reputation followed her. Instant karma, as they say, spares no one. Did this story fire you up? It's a powerful reminder that respect and justice are values worth fighting for, and the fight starts with you. If you loved this story and want more thrilling tales that inspire, educate, and entertain, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us keep uncovering stories like this, where karma meets courage. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Together, we can keep these conversations alive and push for change one story at a time.